Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TCLF One-on-One Series. Through the One-on-One Series, we aim to interact with the best legal professionals from India and around the world. Now, in this episode, we'll be talking about a very interesting area of law, that is banking and finance law. Now, mind you, viewers, we will not be getting into the nitty-gritties of these laws in particular, and rather we would be focusing upon how to develop a career in these laws. What are the kinds of roles and responsibilities that are involved in terms of working with a bank or a corporation which works in that specific area? What are the skills required, the challenges, etc.? And we're very honored to host Mr. Raghav Kumar Singh with us for today's episode. Sir, of course, apart from being a very distinguished alumni from my university, that is RML and LU Lucknow, is currently a legal officer with the State Bank of India. He's also had the experience of working with banks like the Oriental Bank of Commerce, as well as other corporations like the DMRC. With tons of experience on his, CV now, I think this will be a very enlightening episode for anyone who wishes to join this field or is exploring, in terms of the options, whether or not this field would suit him, her, or them. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Shashwat, for such a generous introduction. And before proceeding forward, I want to congratulate you for creating a platform like TCLF, where it is for sure helping a lot of students, not only in your college, but across the country. And I've been following this initiative since very long, and I know for sure because I'm updated with all the articles that you post, with all the other interactions that you've had on this platform. So congratulations to you and your team for coming up with this platform.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's all because of the support and guidance of seniors like you. And sir, now starting with the stereotypical question or the question that, paves the way for the entire conversation. How did you end up becoming a lawyer? Was it always the plan, or how did you end up becoming a lawyer?
Shashwat, I was very clear from the very beginning that I had to be a lawyer because of my family background, since my father is there in judicial services. So I was very clear that this is something that is appealing to me, that attracts me. So even like most of the students in their 10th is that benchmark year where you need to decide what you want to be, and then accordingly you have to choose subjects. So at that point of time, even though I ended up going for PCM, then also I was very clear that I had to go for law. Why? Because that was my calling. Since the very beginning, I was very clear. And then, although I was not clear that if I become a lawyer, what is next? That opportunity I got when I entered law school, because that I needed to explore when I get there. I did not. I was always open for options. So because of my family background, I was clear that I wanted to be a lawyer. And when I entered law school, I got more clarity about the opportunities that I had. And this is one advice that I want to give to a lot of students when they enter law school. Like, first year of your law school, most of the people say that you need to have some clarity as to where you want to end up, but I would rather say that you should explore options when you get there. Why? Because entering law school, it's not a degree of 2 years or 3 years. It's 5 years. Even in your last year, fourth year also, if you are having options but you are not clear as to where you want to end up, it's fine. I can give you so many examples that where people have changed careers when they are already in job. They are in banking sector, but they ended up in teaching. They are in teaching sector, they ended up in banking. I can give you example where there's a civil servant who has cracked UPSC, and now she's a practicing advocate in Supreme Court. So one thing is that you are not trapped in this profession. There is no thing like you are trapped in this profession. Law offers you so much of scope that you can always pursue your calling.
I absolutely agree with that, sir. And even when I was in law school, and I was very open, to exploring different kinds of areas in terms of the subjects as well, and in terms of the working atmospheres and the types of workplaces that exist. I was also very
Brilliant.
open to that, and I think that's very important
Brilliant.
for you to realize, even if you're sure, for you to realize
Yes,
that I'm sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Even small opportunities like conferences, like seminars, like internships. I think one relevant aspect that most of the people, they do internships. What I come across, why? Because that is given in the curriculum. But you should always pursue internships, even if it is not your go-to place, in order to understand what is the work culture there, in order to understand whether you will be able to gel up if you end up in that space. So,
Right.
5 years, that means at least 10 internships, at least.
Right.
That is the internship. If not 10, then at least seven. That means you are having seven opportunities to explore those areas wherever you will be working. So I guess if we go into a law school, we should go with an open mind. Even if your
Right.
dream is to end up as a IAS or as an advocate or as a judge, then also you should be open to areas. You should always explore things which come in front of you.
Right, sir. I absolutely agree with that. Now, sir, the next step, when did you realize that, I want to work in the banking sphere? Because even today, sir, to be honest, most of the students have, those conventional preferences. I want to join a law firm. I want to work with a multinational corporation, or I want to, crack the services, or go into litigation as well. But you hear very few people saying that I want to join the banking sector. That's where I want to be in terms of a lawyer as well. So when did you realize that?
Very good question, Joshua, because I also came from a very traditional mindset. And the options that you told me, even at that point of time, there were no avenues like TCLF where I could watch and go for, guidance.
Right.
So even I was of that mindset that, these are the traditional spaces which are available for a lawyer and I'll end up in one of these. But when I got a campus recruitment, I went for a job, and when I was doing that job, so I realized that maybe this is not my space, and I do not like working there. I might end up in some other place, so I started exploring other avenues. I came across one of my seniors who was already a law officer in a bank, so I got to know about this IBPS exam, and then I contacted that senior, and he told me about this exam, that this is what we do. And one thing I was sure at that point of time is that I want to go for public sector. So, and that is why I kept on giving exams. I cleared CDS, DMRC, IBPS, SBI. So I was having a lot of options, but then I wanted to zero down on one. So I started interacting with my senior, and the things that he told me, I realized that it aligned with a lot of all the benchmarks that I had in my mind. So, and then when I worked there, I actually liked it because of the range that this field provides. For example, right from uh, going for a lok adalat, where a reference would come to you for settlement of a dispute of say 70,000, 50,000, whether we should go for
Right, sir.
this settlement or not. You shall be dealing with references of say concessionaire agreements and project financing, which will run into crores, 200 crores, 300 crores. And when you shall be dealing, even this is in terms of financing, when it comes
Right.
to law, there also you might have to deal with a very small act which is called Payment and Settlement Act, System Settlement Act. This is 2007. It's a very small
Right.
act to something which is called Apostle Convention. Now, this convention is was entered in 1961. It is also famously called as Hague Convention, where member countries are there, and it is about legalizing of a foreign document. So what happens in this? I'll just take 1 minute to explain as to why this is so relevant. So if there is a notarized document, if you need to understand, if you need to verify the authenticity of the document, you go for a notary. But if there is a person who's residing in US, if that person is residing in some other country, and if he wants to send a power of attorney, if he wants to send an affidavit, how that thing will be accepted in our jurisdiction, Indian jurisdiction. So that is what this convention talks about. It says that if there is a system of apostle, if it is apostolized by that concerned officer, there is no need absolutely for getting it revalidated in India, as it is accepted. So why it is relevant, I'm telling you, in times like COVID, everyone was locked wherever they were. They had to go for, if they needed money, if they wanted to sell property, if they wanted to demortgage, then obviously they cannot come to India and do that. There, this convention was important. They could apostolize the document there, send the document here, and we would accept it. But how many of us we in our sphere actually know about this? So this is the opportunity that this space, this banking space, this banking field gives to us. And there is some sense of contribution as well. I can give you an example where in 2016 I was posted in Hyderabad and I had to go for one local audit. There was one lady who had a loan of around 80,000 and she came for settlement. That lady was of 80 years old and she could barely walk. She came there and she said that this is all I have. That it was around 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. We checked the policy of the bank, and as for the policy of the bank, it was a fit case for going for settlement. We did that. So, as per the policy of the bank, we were well within the limits that policy allowed, the bank policy allowed, the limits of law. That lady took her hand and kept on my head, and she blessed me. And the kind of satisfaction that I got from that, it's I cannot imagine it. So it's these small things, and this is only one aspect of working in a public sector bank. I can tell you, you'll get a lot of opportunities where you can actually contribute while working, and that is why that satisfaction will be there in the in your professional space. Apart from that, there is work-life balance. There are things that you can do which you might not be able to do when you are there in a law firm because of the kind of pressure which is there. Obviously, there is pressure here as well because you will be dealing with finances. But then it gives you a very holistic opportunity to improve and to learn. So that is why I just absolutely love working here, and this is how I ended up in bank.
That was a very insightful answer, sir, in terms of, getting to know the area, what kind of opportunities it, offers and all. Now, sir, you've
Yes.
already given us a, brief overview of the kind of things that you've done. You've shared your experiences, the kind of,
Mhm.
laws that you're dealing with. Uh, but if I were to ask you that, what are the different roles and responsibilities of a lawyer who's
Correct.
working with a bank? What kind of,
Yes.
whether it's only advisory, whether you're also supposed to act as a
Mhm.
litigator, and if not as a briefing counsel, what are the different roles that go into this space?
All right. That's a very good question, Shashwat, because most of the people they have absolutely no idea about what we do as a law officer. All right. So I'll give this answer in four aspects. So basically, there are four aspects when it comes to uh, banking and your role as a law officer. So the first one is obviously the litigation management. Litigation management is that there will be cases which will be filed against the bank. The bank shall be filing those cases. Those cases might relate to recovery where the cases are filed in DRT, NCLT, and then there are cases which are filed in consumer forums. Then there are cases which are relating to service matter in high court. Then there are some arbitration matters as well now. So these are the kind of litigation management cases that you have to end up dealing, where you have to ensure that the stand of the bank in the respective forums, including labor commissioners as well, those replies which are filed are properly vetted, are properly drafted. So it is not only just going through it. If there is a need, you need to draft it as well. You need to have ended up drafting a lot of counters and the submission which had to be made in the courts. So apart from the litigation management, and so litigation management also includes, you need to hire advocates for specific cases. You need to brief them. Sometimes you have to be available in the courts as well. So it's not that it's only the desk job. Sometimes you have to be there in DRT, you have to be there in NCLT, even in the high courts, where you might to interact with the judge directly along with the concerned counsel. So that is one part which is relating to litigation management. The other part is relating to credit. Why? Because at the end of the day, the bank is run on credit. So the credit which is providing, the loans which are there, so there will be a lot of references in relation to SME advances, P segment advances, concessionaire agreements. joint venture agreements, and project financing, which is there, whether regarding the validity of the mortgage, regarding the demortgaging, regarding the dispute which is there in the chain of title. For example, if there is a will which is involved in the chain of title, whether you can proceed with the will, whether there is a power of attorney which is involved, power of attorney sale. And there is a Suraj Lamb's case way back in 2011. So after that, there has been a change in this power of attorney sale. So all these factors, there is a gift deed involved. So other aspect of being a law officer is that you need to deal with credit side. All right, references relating to credit side regarding the mortgageability of the property, anything in relation to the securing of the security interest of the bank. Basically, that is one aspect where we as a law officer, we have to ensure that the security interest of the bank is safeguarded. Now, coming to the third aspect is relating to references relating to general banking. Now, general banking, what do you mean by general banking? For example, you have a say current account, and that current account is attached by the income tax authorities. Now, you say that current account cannot be attached, but income tax authority is emphasizing that no, it can be. So that reference will come as a to you as a law officer. There are references in relation to operation of lockers. There is a John Locker IRA, and one of them they passed. So now that reference will come to you in regard to the operation. There are references then in regard to ATM operations and other aspect of general banking account operation. And then there is the fourth aspect. This is also very exciting, which you might not be able to come across if you are working in, say, law firm or and maybe basically in private sector. That is in regard to risk management, particularly FIRs. So we already know when we are dealing with finances, there is a risk which is associated with it. There might be people who will be coming and duping the bank. So, in order to ensure that an FIR is filed, you need to draft those FIR. You might be sent for even investigations. You might be sent for even inquiries. So, I cannot get into the confidentials, but I can give you an example where a few days back here where I'm working, there was a fraud which was perpetrated, and it was in relation to the gold loan accounts. So the bank send its law officers in order to examine what is the fraud about and what are the steps which can be taken by the bank in order to prevent such kind of frauds in future. So we went there. I went along with my senior. We went on the spot. We prepared a report and we send all those recommendations to our head office, local head office, which is in Bhopal. And then those recommendations were sent to corporate center. And the corporate center is a committee which examined those references, and now those references are implemented across India. So these are the kind of opportunities that you will get when you are working here. And as I said, it is not one dimensional. So most of the people are having this, I think, this doubt that if you are working in a space, it is completely one dimensional. You will be, there's a sort of saturation after a point of view. I don't agree with that. If you are working, and particularly in a bank as SBI, where it is such a huge bank that every week or every now and then you will come up with a new reference you might not have heard about before. So there will be an opportunity to learn, there will be an opportunity to grow, and that is why these opportunities will translate into your career opportunities. There are people who are now working as a senior partner in huge law firms. There are people who have gone from our bank to regulatory authorities. And so these opportunities, why these opportunities are there? Because of the work that you have done, because you were involved in those kind of works. So this is what it is about. And there is one more aspect, that there are specific recovery branches. There are specific branches in relation to corporate account. So they are dealing with huge transactions of 500 crores to 200 crores. So everything will get into through law officers. So that is the kind of scope which is there as a working professional for you, to not only contribute but to grow as well.
Now, sir, that's a very multi-dimensional area to work in, and uh, I think an in-house role, whether it is with a private company or with a public sector bank, as you are working with, sir, it always involves a multi-dimensional outlook, as well as the uh,
Absolutely.
flexibility and the inherent, uh, what should I say, an inherent belief that I can work across different, areas of the law. You must be open to that.
Yes.
Now, sir, because it is so multidimensional, what are the kind of skills that one must work on, in order to join this field or before joining this field, so that you're, in some way prepared. Of course, you learn on the go. The practicalities of it is always on the, as you start working, but there must be some skills that one can develop before entering the field.
Yes. Shashwat, one of the skills that I find very, very relevant is in regard to drafting. You should be very good at drafting. Why? Because your it's like your opinion is in a form of a judgment. Nobody will question your opinion, and it will have a lot of implications. So it has happened a lot of times that the opinions that you give as a law officer, it will get challenged, and it will be there in the before the high court. Even opinions have gone to Supreme Court as well. So this is something that you need to be very, very good at. You need not just give opinions. For example, there is an opinion in relation to locker, whether the locker operation will be there in favor of A or B, and you have given an opinion of 4 lines. Why? Because that you are thinking that implication of the opinion is in regard to only two people, but you do not foresee that one of the people or one of those persons can actually challenge that opinion. Once it is there in the High Court or before any competent authority, that opinion will be scrutinized on the basis of law, for the applicable law. So you should be very good in drafting. The person who reads your opinion, they should, or anyone, even for the branch functionaries, if they go through your opinion, it should be crystal clear. It should inspire confidence in the person who's acting on your opinion, because they are the person who are taking this based on your opinion. They are the person who are rejecting loans. They are the person who are taking recovery actions. They are the persons who are going for settlement based on your opinion. So you should have very good drafting skills, that it should be absolutely clear. It should be that is why I said it is in the form, it's like a judgment for them. Most of the people, they 99% of the opinion in the cases that your opinion will get followed. Apart from that, you should always focus on interpretation, how to interpret. All right. I'm not saying cramming, I'm not saying understanding, it's interpretation, how you interpret provisions. As you said, that you learn on the go. Now, when I was, bankruptcy code wasn't there when I joined the banking sector in 2013. It
Right.
came afterwards. All right. So there are many laws, even there are many amendments which take place. And if there is a reference which is coming in regard to that law, you might not always be able to find, precedents. So you should be good in interpretation as to how that provision is to be interpreted. In that regard, the purposive interpretation, which is that what is the purpose. Third thing is in regard to research. You should be very good at research, and that research should be time bound. The branches, who or the offices which give you references, they don't have all all week to wait for you to give. They, if they want some reference, it has to be within a timeline. Sometimes it has to be within 1 hour or 2 hours. They give you references, and then the pressure is such that they will say that, I want your opinion, whatever your legal opinion is, within 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever that is. So in that case, your research work should be such that you are not only giving opinions in the form of your what is your understanding. It should always be backed up with authorities, that all right, I am giving this opinion, however this is backed by this authority, which is again going to inspire confidence in that branch functionary or the office who's acting on your opinion. All right, so these three are the basic skill. Other skill which is there apart from this is that you should always be open to interact, to network, to explain things. As in, basically you should be some communication. I'm talking about communication skill. You should be able to explain things. For
Right.
example, if you are very good in drafting, but you are not able to explain that thing, what happens that I'll give you a very recent example. Bank will not ask. Sometimes, if you give your opinion, they will act on it. Sometimes they might ask you to discuss this opinion with them, the concerned officer. However, the space in which you are working, you need to understand that it is having a lot of financial implications at public at large. So you might have to go before the concerned authorities. For example, there is a policy decision which has to be taken. There is a Swamitva scheme which is there, where the policy decision has to be taken, where the patta land which is there, which is getting, there are some people who will be getting the ownership rights. Now, whether SBI or any other bank, XYZ Bank, Bank of Baroda, PNB Bank, whatever, whether they are willing to give loans, so you will be there in the meetings with senior IAS secretary level people, and there you have to give the stand of the bank. There you have to put forth the stand of the bank that these are the reservations that I'm having, and what can be done in the present legislative scheme to improve this. So you can only say that when you are having the backing of your knowledge. And the second thing is that you are good at communication. You are good at least putting forth what you perceive. So these four are essential things I believe, which will help you to even go forward in your career as well.
Right. And sir, I think one very imminent point that you've raised is that the kind of implications that exist, because the implications of an
Yes,
advice are not just on the organization, but also on the
absolutely,
people who are the consumers of the bank. Someone's
absolutely.
entire life would depend upon the
Mm.
perspective or upon the prospects of obtaining a loan. And that is where your role
Absolutely.
comes in, and that's why it's so
Yes,
important. And
yes.
I think these are very important skills that you highlighted, sir. And the viewers who are interested in this field, they must work and act upon it. Now, sir.
Yes, one more thing I wanted to add, Shashwat, here,
Yeah.
that you should always be updated. This is something which goes for all lawyers. So it is not an
Right.
exception for us who are working as a law officer in a bank, that you should always be updated with the current law, what is going
Correct.
around. That, for example, I gave you an example of a apostate. This thing is
Right.
existing. All right, this thing is accepted, and
Right.
but not a lot of people are aware about it. So just
Right.
think of the implication it is having for a person. If you do not know about this thing, an apostle
Right.
convention, and if that person who's stuck in COVID, that person has to first of all get a document notarized. Say, let's take an example, who's in California, to get a simple thing, an operation of a locker for her or his mother who's there in India. The bank will ask
Right.
for a power of attorney. The power of attorney he will execute in California. Then
Right.
that document has to be notarized in California. Then that person has to go to that office, that embassy, and through embassy it has to be sent in India. How much wastage of resources is there? And moreover, what is that risk? That even if in terms of COVID, the life of that person is at risk when we say
Right.
all these things. So that is why I say update. You need to be updated about the recent laws which are there, the implications which are there, and then you need to implement it.
Right, sir. And uh, I absolutely agree, sir. And even I'll personally also read about this convention. I remember reading about
Yes,
it
yes.
briefly in one of my internships, which was with respect to some, I think, travel exchange or something. But I will read
Hmm.
about it in detail as well. And
Great.
now, to moving on to the very last part of our conversation, I just want to
Hmm.
also talk about two of your recent initiatives. One is the
Yes,
a blog that is called
yes.
Banking on Law, and in fact, our readers and viewers can also read one of the blogs that Sir had written, which has been cross-posted on TCLF as well. And
Mhm.
so I want to talk about the blog, and secondly, your another initiative, the mentorship project. I just want to, sir, understand what was the motivation behind the two, and if you could briefly explain what are the visions and the goals.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashwat, for actually introducing both the blogs here. So, when I talk about banking on law, so since you are already there doing disputes, there in the dispute field, you would understand that one of the most important ways of acquiring knowledge is not always books. All right,
Right.
it's practical aspects of that field where one is working. The
Right.
knowledge that you acquire through practical field, that will always be there with you. You can forget cases, you can forget books, but tomorrow if you go for an argument, and just points you out that this, what about this? And if you get to learn about that thing, you will never forget in your life. You will always remember that thing. So this is the prime purpose of banking online. Since I have an experience of about a decade on banking, there are various aspects of banking and in relation to banking law, issues relating to general banking, issues relating to litigation, risk management that I acquired, and I know people who have much more experience than me who have acquired those aspects of knowledge, which is relating to practical aspect of banking. So through that blog, I wanted to put forth all those aspects, which is not generally there on that in books, which is not generally there on that content is not there in social media or media as such, internet as such. So those aspects I wanted to put forth through banking on law, and the purpose behind it is simple.
Right.
When you are there in any if you have attained some degree of expertise knowledge, the purpose should always to contribute, the purpose should always to help someone who might be in your shoes right now, at
Right.
that point of time when you were searching for what is going to be, you who might be facing all the pressures that you had at that point of time. So if you help that person, that that it will form a chain, all right, and at the end of the day it is going to help that one person, because of that one person whose legal reference is forwarded to you, who is actually trying to resolve that issue. So ultimately
Right.
it is going to benefit that person, the person who needs it. So that is the basic purpose as to why I come across this idea of one blog where I can contribute my experiences that I've had in regard to issues that I faced in banking sector
Right.
in legal terms. Now, coming over to the second aspect or the second initiative that we have started, it is the mentorship project. Now, this is very close to my heart. Why? Because I have been mentoring students since I started working
Right.
as an associate. I started working in bank. So for me, there is a lot of sense of satisfaction when I see these students who have come from very marginal background doing really good in life. So when I was thinking about this, I thought that if there is going to be a platform, and
Right.
if on that platform there are going to be very like-minded people like me, so it will help a lot of people. Say,
Correct,
and
sir.
why not to use that expertise? Why not to use my network to help those people who can actually do good in life and who can actually
Right.
contribute?
Right.
So that is the sole reason as to why I came up with this platform, and I'm really glad that it has been because of the reception that it is getting, that it is actually helping people, and
Right.
even a single person, if it is getting, if it is useful for that person, that will ultimately, because of the chain effect that I told, it is going to reciprocate in some or the other form. And ultimately, it is going to be useful if there is a person who wants to become a judge, and if I connect that person to the right mentor who is already a judge, who was there in his shoes, then if that person will become a judge, again that person will help another person who is who is actually deserving, but who is looking for the right mentor. So this is what we do. We connect a student, a professional to the right mentor who could actually help him to go where he want to be. And we believe that the help which we are providing, which is actually it's a pro bono initiative without any cost, that will get reciprocated at a later stage. Since I told you, again, I will take you back to the very beginning of the interview, how I entered banking sector. It was because of one senior with whom I interacted only for 20 minutes, and that actually decided the trajectory of my whole career. So if that 20 minutes, it was having so much of impact on me, the same thing would obviously be there for other people who were there when I was searching for a lot of options in career. So that is the purpose why I wanted to start this initiative, and I'm very thankful to all the expert mentors and all the people who have joined in this initiative. And through your forum, I want to appeal to all your followers and to everyone who's watching this video that be a part of this initiative as a mentor or as a mentee, because we want this thing to have an impact and something good should come out of it.
That's a brilliant initiative, sir. In fact, both of them. And I think the value on of mentorship in this profession, be it whatever field that you're working in, whether it is law firms, banks, whatever, I think the value of mentorship is unparalleled because this field can be confusing, this field can be frustrating as well because of that confusion.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
frustration is not good at all. And I'm very thankful, sir, on behalf of everyone that you've started this, and I'm sure that will help out many people. Now, so with that, we
Thank
come to
you.
an end of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. It was an absolute honor to host you.
Thank you so much, Shashwat. I had a great time interacting and sharing my experiences, and I hope that it is helpful for your viewers. And I again wish you all the very best for your endeavors. And I know that it is actually helping a lot of students and your intended audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.